Welcome back to another Notebook Check Tech Review. We've got the Dell XPS 15 here, the 2016-inch Skylake version with the infinity screen. There's two versions of this. There's the Quad HD version with the glossy screen. That's got the Core i7 inside and the 84 watt-hour battery and the SSD only. This is the FHD version, the full HD version here, with the matte screen. It's not quite infinity. There's a little bit of an edge to the screen, but not much. It still looks fantastic. But this only has the 56 watt-hour battery because they've put in a, take a look on this camera here, hard drive fits in there, and there's a 32 gig SSD cache in there as well. It's a slightly lower price device, and of course that FHD non-touch screen will bring you some battery life advantages. So hopefully that smaller battery is going to be just as good or give you just as long battery life as the 84 watt-hour battery on the Quad HD touch version. But we're going to take a look at that now because we're going to go through the Notebook Check full review test results. So I'm going to give you the details of the screen accuracy. We'll look at things like pulse width modulation, response time, color accuracy, black level, contrast, and then we'll also look at the graphics power, the CPU power in this, and of course the battery life at the end. So let's take a look at that now. We'll go straight into the specifications. If you have a look on the screen there, you'll see we've got the Core i5 version here. Now the FHD version only comes with the Core i5. It's obviously Skylake generation there, and it is the HQ variant. So as opposed to the XPS 13, which has the U series 15 watt TDP CPUs, dual core, this has the Core i5 quad core 45 watt TDP. So it's going to be a lot more powerful than the XPS 13, but it's also going to take a lot more power if you're putting it under load. We've got 8 gigs of RAM in this. You can upgrade it. You can take the back off. There's 2 DDR slots. I'm not sure how they're. I'm not sure whether you've got 2 or 4 or 4 or 8 single. 2 times 4 or 1 times 8 mounted in this. But if there's 2 4s, you'll have to swap out for 8 and 8 or 8 and 4. The screen, as I said, FHD, that's 1920 by 1080. It's a sharp screen. It's an IPS screen. I'll look at the details on that in a minute. So on the storage, we've got a Western Digital 1 terabyte drive and a 32 gig SSD cache. Now, in the Quad HD versions, you've just got an SSD. In the BIOS, you can actually configure the device to be a number of different configurations. Now, we have actually tried reconfiguring during to BIOS to see if we could actually see that SSD as part of the underneath the operating system, but we couldn't. So in order to upgrade, you're probably going to have to rebuild Windows. You'll have to change the BIOS settings and rebuild Windows when you upgrade that SSD. So there is an upgrade path here. You could even buy the 84 watt-hour battery, take the 54 watt-hour battery, take the hard drive out completely and put that hard drive battery in there. We haven't tested it. We don't know if it really does work, but in theory, that should be a modular system that could be upgraded. First, let's just talk about the casing. Now, we've got a carbon fiber base here around the keyboard, and we've got a metal surround. It's a really nice build, very, very similar to the XPS 13. You see underneath you've still got that little flap there and the screw holes there that allow you to get the back off. I think there's 8 screw holes there. Speaker ports and air vents as well. The whole structure of the device is pretty good. The whole feel of the device is pretty solid. Just 1 or 2 little edges there, but it's pretty okay in terms of usability. This is not something that's a 2-in-1 that's going to be used as a tablet in the hand, so not too much of a problem there. The weight is, for this version, just under 2 kilograms. It is 1958 grams. That's what we measured. And if you put the 84 watt-hour battery in, it just tips it over to just over 2 kilos. So slight difference in the weight, but under 2 kilograms for a 15-inch full HD display there, not too bad. Let's have a look at the sizing. On the interactive sizing chart on our website, you'll see the Dell XPS 15. I want to bring in the ZenBook Pro UX501. You'll see that's quite a bit bigger there. And that's the difference between the devices with infinity screen and no frame, and without. So that ZenBook Pro, obviously a little bit bigger. Let's bring the MacBook Pro Retina in. You'll see that's the same width, but just slightly deeper and 1mm thicker. Just for comparison, let's bring in the XPS 13, and you'll see that is a much smaller device. So let's go in with the camera here and take a look at the ports. We've got a headset port here, full USB-C 3.1 Rev 2. It's a full USB-C with Thunderbolt support inside there as well. Full HDMI port there, and we've got the USB 3 with sync and charge available on that. Flipping round to the other side, Kensington's lock port, you've got this battery meter button here, which only works when the device is off. USB port there, and full-size SD card slot there. So not a huge amount of ports on the device, but a reasonable selection there. Don't forget we've got AC Wi-Fi on the inside. While I've got the camera here, I just want to show you the keyboard. It's backlit. There's a nice throw, a good feel to it. And that trackpad is nice and big, feels good, and it's actually nice quality as well. So really good working fascia there on the keyboard and mouse part of it. But let's take a look at that full HD matte screen now, and I'll give you some details of the performance and characteristics of that screen. So taking a look at the IPS screen now, obviously it's matte and it is IPS, so there's a good set of viewing angles there. Let me just spin that round for you again to get a reflection so you can see the scattered light on that matte screen. So not glossy, that's an advantage if you're using it in places with the pinpoint lighting. Now then, what about the brightness? Spin that around again. Brightness in the middle, as you can see there, 399 nits. That's a good figure, 399. That should give you, well, it does give you outdoor use capability. Not in bright sunlight, of course, where there's always a problem in direct sunlight, but on a bright day, a cloudy day, 399 nits is going to give you good uses characteristics. Check out the black level there, 4 CDM. That's a good level, and with that high brightness, it leaves a contrast, an excellent contrast of over 1600. So there's a really nice contrast on that. Now have a look at the color and the grayscale deltas here. So measured with our Kalman test, out of the box, color deltas 5.95. For those of you not familiar with those deltas, a level of 5 or below would be quite good. Going towards 3 would be excellent. So 5.95 out the box, not fantastic. But you'll see figures in a minute from our post-calibration testing that are much better than that. Grayscale, 8.41. Now, the post-calibration figures are much better, and we've left the calibration file, the ICM file, in our full review. So if you want to download that, if you've got the XPS 15 FHD, it's a good starting point for you. Load that ICC file in to Windows, and you'll get a better calibration. We've got it all the way down to 1.2 on color, and an excellent 0.9 on grayscale. So this screen can be calibrated very, very well indeed. Quick look at the response times there. 62 milliseconds from 2 different gray levels is not very quick. 40 milliseconds from black to white, also not super quick. Pulse width modulation is there, but at a level of brightness which is so low that you probably are not going to experience it. We've detected 362 Hertz at a brightness level of 10% and lower, so not really going to affect too many people. Also, a little bit of light bleeding detected on a fully black screen in a dark room with the brightness, the backlight pumped up really high, but again, a situation that most people won't find themselves in. On performance, now we've got an issue here that we need to talk about, and that is throttling. It seems to be that on the battery, Dell has built this system so that it throttles back after a short while. So what we were seeing in some of our performance tests is it down throttling to 1.6 gigahertz from a high of 2.8 on dual core and 2.9 on single core. So that's an issue, and that you'll see in some of our results. Now let's have a look at Cinebench R5 multi-CPU score, 461 points. Now compare that to the UX 501 with an older CPU and the same GTX 960M, which gets 606 points, 30% more than the XPS 15. We were able to, under battery power, get a bit more performance out of it, but if a process is running, you need to log out and log back in before Dell's BIOS or subsystem picks that up and starts to bring in full power again. So under battery power, some limits there to the performance. There's the single CPU score of 118. Again, the ZenBook Pro, if I just click that, you'll see is, oh, actually about the, no, sorry, just going to click that. The ZenBook Pro coming in at 10% more powerful than the XPS 15. If you look at the XPS 13 down the bottom there, that's coming in at 125 points. So that's an interesting comparison. So just comparing cores to cores, it looks like the XPS 13 can handle a little bit more longer term heat and longer term load than the XPS 15 does. PC Mark 7 scores, so an overall sort of office and multimedia usage, pretty good, and that's because of the hard drive in here being pretty good as well. That cache is really speeding up the performance test on PC Mark 7. 5128 scores is pretty good on Dell XPS 15, and if you look down, there's not much that's that much faster than it. The ZenBook Pro UX501, which is a pure SSD device, scoring 10% more. So as I said, built into here is a 1 terabyte hard drive. Check out a previous video we did, which shows you the XPS 15 internals, and you'll see the 84 watt battery, and I point out where that hard drive is supposed to be. In this one, you get the hard drive and the SATA interface, and you'll get 1 terabyte in there, 32 gig cache as well. So it is possible to put in an SSD there such that you could load the operating system onto that and use the terabyte as storage. That's not the setup that the FHD version comes with, but that's a possibility you can do. We haven't tested it, haven't confirmed that it works, but the BIOS seems to give you the ability to split the devices up and take that RAID function away, give you 2 separate drives. So although it's a spinning hard drive, the performance of it was excellent. Sequential read speed there of 238.6 megabytes per second. That's fine. It's not up there with the super fast SSDs of 2015, 2016, but it's pretty acceptable. And the 4K read and write speeds, well, at least the 4K read speed there of 31 megabytes per second. That write speed there of 1 megabyte per second is not as good on Crystal Mark. I'm just going to switch to HD Tune. And you'll get, sorry, the AS SSD is the one I wanted. The 4K 64 writes, again, 1 megabyte per second. There was some variance we saw on those as well. If you check out the full review, you'll see some reports on variance we got. So obviously, as maybe the buffers fill up, things can slow down. This is a cache SSD. It's not a full SSD system. Now onto graphics, we've got the GTX 950M inside this, so we're going to get some reasonable gaming performance. The question is, how long does that last in terms of load? Does it down throttle? Does it get hot as well? So let's start off with 3D Mark 11, score there of 5375, a really nice score from the Dell XPS 15. But I want to go down to some gaming scores now. And if you look at that chart there, let's just bring that into the screen for you. We've got results on ultra settings, which is full HD playback of a number of games there, including recent games like Evolve, Star Wars Battlefront as well. So most of those games coming in at over 30 frames a second. So that's a nice set of scores for the Dell XPS 15. In terms of load noise, we've done a synthetic test which runs both a GPU and a CPU load for an hour, and we got a maximum of 47.5 dB on the volume. So that's not too bad at all, and that's a synthetic test that maybe you'll reach under some gaming conditions, but not normally under normal use. There are your temperature figures then. Again, under load, maximum 62.5, that's up here on the top, and that's quite warm actually under load, but that is a full load situation again, and you'll have to watch out for that if you're doing things like video rendering and gaming. So that's quite warm there. On the underside, 54.4, not really too much of a problem. Do note that the fan's output or input, either way, there's output or input on the underside. So if you're going to use this on carpet or on a pillow, Be careful, you'll probably get to the point where you'll really get some heat build up under some even normal usage situations. Before we get on to battery life, speakers are good on this. There's a good level of performance on the speakers and a good volume. There's some more information on the website about that, and if you're interested in more audio features, don't forget to read that section on the speakers. Right then, battery life, battery runtime under a number of different conditions. Remember, we've got the 56 watt-hour battery here, not the 84 watt-hour battery of the Quad HD. And in a video following this, I'll probably get the Quad HD version on the table. I've got it over in the corner, and I'll give you a rundown of the performance on that one. But for the FHD version, we're getting some reasonable run times. Idle, 9 hours, 4 minutes. I personally have a feeling, having looked at this, that you'll get a little bit more out of it. There's McAfee running in the background. There's a few things sort of updating in the background as well when I switch this on. So I have a feeling that there's some optimizations that could help with idle, and then could help reduce that background load for some other situations. Like, for example, Wi-Fi surfing. So 5 hours and 32 minutes off a 54 watt-hour battery at 150 nits is not a great figure. 5 hours 32 is actually quite a good amount, but it's not a great figure for the amount of battery we've got in here. It is a big screen. Of course, there's lots of backlighting going on here. The bigger the screen, the more LEDs you have to backlight it evenly at 150 nits. So 5.5 hours on Wi-Fi surfing. If you look at video playback, 6 hours, so not much more. And that's an offline figure, again, 150 nits. So video playback, 5 hours, that's an average of sort of 9 to 10 watt usage. Just have a feeling in my heart of hearts that we could actually put this down into power saving mode and stop it peaking, stop it doing stuff in the background. You can do things like put network, well, actually, if you're playing back video, you won't need to worry about the network, but if you're, for example, Wi-Fi surfing, you could put the network into what's it called, metered mode, to stop things happening in the background. That can help save some battery as well. So there's a few tricks and tips that you could probably do to improve that battery life there. What about the battery life under load? Now, under maximum brightness and under a synthetic load test, a similar test to the test we did for the heat, we got 2 hours and 20 minutes. Actually, we've seen much worse than that on other devices. That's an average load of over 20 watts, but 2 hours and 20 minutes isn't too bad for a full load test. So that's relating to gaming. You'll probably get 2.5 hours to 3 hours of gaming out of this under battery load. Right, onto the pros and cons now. A summary of the Dell XPS 15 2016 with the FHD screen, Core i5 CPU, 56 watt-hour battery, 1 terabyte of storage with 32 gig SSD cache. If you've jumped to this section in the video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. You've just skipped all the hard work I did before, so how about you giving me a thumbs up back, and don't forget to subscribe to the videos, and we'll give you notifications when new videos come up in your mailbox. Right, the pros and cons. Let's start with the pros. Of course, that great chassis. This is a good feature of the Dell XPS 13 and the Dell XPS 15, a really nice, sturdy chassis. And the compact dimensions, a good weight considering the size of the screen and the brightness of the screen as well. That's a nice 400 nit brightness on the screen. Good accuracy on the screen as well, and especially after calibration, super accuracy, great contrast. That screen is really, really nice. If you're liking full HD, non-touch, non-glossy displays, this is one of the best. This is a great screen. There is a reasonable fan control, so not a great amount of noise as things heat up, so that's a good advantage. Good loudspeaker quality as well. In general use, great PC Mark score, and that's really attributable to this good hard drive and cache combination there. So you've got the big storage, 1 terabyte, and you've also got a nice bit of speed for application startup and that sort of thing. These synthetic tests not probably showing the best about long-term performance, but certainly in things like application startup, the SSD is really going to help. Great gaming performance thanks to that GTX 960M, and you saw earlier in the review a list of the games and the frame rates we got out of our tests. Go to the website and the full review. You get a lot more information about graphics performance, some comments on throttling, some comments on gaming performance. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to do the video rendering test in this one, but we'll try and get that one done on the Quad HD version, which will give us an idea of the power of that platform. The main negative point to mention really is this throttling under battery load. We're not getting the full performance out of the platform under battery load. It's not known whether a BIOS update could fix that or whether there is a trick you could do. We've tried all the tricks that we know to try and set the device into performance mode, for example, to get the full performance out of it. But as it stands, under battery load and under full load, that throttles back quite severely. On the display, slight flickering at very low brightness levels, probably not going to affect many people at all, and a slightly yellow cast when we viewed from the side. We mentioned that in the full review. Check it out for more details. After we'd been running on battery, the fan didn't seem to reset properly. That might again be fixable by a BIOS update. We don't know any more details on that at this stage. Microphone quality, mediocre, and the webcam, not fantastic quality as well. So those are the pros and cons of the Dell XPS 15 FHD. Now, what did we give it as a full score? There's the full score then, 86%. Now, that's a really good score, and you'll see the breakdown there of the scores. For example, the chassis getting an excellent 97%. For games performance, 91%. For audio, just down to 63%, mainly because of that microphone quality. The speakers were actually pretty good, though. Temperature marked down as well, down at 74%. But you'll be able to work out, if you know your requirements, you'll be able to have a look at that table and work out exactly how it scores for you, rather than the general 86% multimedia weighted score we gave it in our full review. Personally, I really like the Dell XPS 15 FHD, and I'm preferring it to the Quad HD version, despite the fact that it's only got the 54 watt-hour battery. I think it's an expensive device, but there's a great amount of power there. And if they get a BIOS fix for this throttling under battery issue, I'm not sure if there's a possibility of that because of the temperatures we saw, that 60 degrees under full load. That's probably the price you're going to have to pay for this compact, tight, small unit. Obviously, the thermal restrictions there maybe are the limit and causing that problem under load. But in general, what a fantastic device, and if you can afford it, the XPS 15, probably one of the best, if not the best, 15-inch Windows laptops out there right now. Maybe the XPS 15 Quad HD is better. Now, I've got that sitting right over there right now, and in the next video, I'll be reviewing that for you, going over full details from the Notebook Check test on that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and you'll get notifications in your mailbox of videos as we put them up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next Notebook Check Tech Review.